Hello, hello, hello. How are we this evening? That is the question. I got my nap in, and I think that gave me a little bit of energy to write some code. Let's make a run on the audio checks here. Make sure we are live. This is an audio test. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Oh, that's not the button I wanted. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Let's see how it's going in the world of YouTube. 0 views, perfect. Just the way I like it. This is an audio test. 1, 2. YouTube is so delayed compared to Twitch. Hey, there's some audio. Okay. That sounds good. I think the audio test is good. All right. Let's write some code. Or let's think about writing some code. I think is the plan. Cuz I'm trying to decide if I want a little bit more object-oriented programming in my life. Because that's what I'm familiar with and that's what I prefer. Cuz I'm starting to see some issues that are going to crop up where I would like to maintain some state and possibly encapsulate it, especially with something like where I'm measuring text, you know? Because I think this is an operation that I only really need to do once, or once anytime the text changes, which is more like a dirty flag almost. So I'm trying to think what that would look like. I know what that would look like in an object-oriented sense. I don't know what that would look like in a data-oriented sense, other than storing it on a struct, but there's no functions on the struct. I can start to add functions to the struct, I suppose. But then you're losing encapsulation because everything's public, and I don't really want to modify a bunch of stuff. So I think there are some opportunities here for a little bit of object-orientedness in my life. I'm also not 100% sold on Toml as my configuration solution. I mean, if I was just doing configuration, I think it's perfectly fine, and maybe it still is fine. But as a flat map, it's not as clean to me on like child-parent hierarchies, and I'm wondering if I should think about what I want to do there. Gosh, do I really want to go back to XML though? That's so verbose. But there's something to be said about how well it does nesting architecture. So that's kind of where I'm at and thinking. And I'm sure there's a way to do nested objects in Toml. Actually, let me check. Is there a good way to use Toml for nested objects? Toml's actually pretty great for nested objects. Oh, okay. Well, that's not... Oh. This is nested inside server. So you're saying... Won't that get kind of long, though, if I have, like, a ton of nested objects? Hey, what's this language? Hey, how's it going? The language is C++. And I am looking at Toml, which is just a text configuration. What do you? I don't even know what it. I don't even know what it stands for. Like text object markup language, something like that. It's like an INI. It's what I'm using to do configuration on my game. And so I'm trying to think ahead about how I want to deal with nested configuration for UI, or if I even need it. It's kind of where I'm at. Now, the real question is, I see you chatting to me with my app here, but you are not showing up in my OBS. So what is going on there? That is weird. I only happen to see you. Okay, looks like you guys are coming from YouTube. Hi, welcome. Appreciate you stopping by. But why can't I see you? Almost certainly... Is there a way I can close and maybe reopen tools? See, docs, custom browser docs. Apply. Apply. Okay. How do I get this to show up? Oh, there it is. Let's see. Does it work now? Hey, there we go. Now it's working. Yeah, I'm back at it. Or I'm trying to anyway. Trying to make a little bit of progress. Hello. How's it going? Appreciate you stopping by. So we could potentially do nested objects like server.database, inline tables best for one-liners. Oh wait, isn't this JSON? What is this? If you have a small object that fits on one line, use curl. Oh, yeah, okay. No, this is just like setting a property value. That's not what I want. I can use IDs. IDs is always an option. Why Toml instead of YAML or JSON? That is a great question. And it's one that I have been considering, and I'm still not necessarily sold on Toml itself. But the big reason is JSON, at least the standard version of JSON, does not support comments. So I want the option to comment out my configuration at any point, or be able to add a description to say this entity represents the player, right? This entity represents the guy who will destroy the player. be able to comment things out and debug, for those kinds of purposes. So JSON for that reason is probably not my go-to. Now, I could still use JSON for like data passing. I would have no issue with that. YAML's a little tricky because YAML is very white space dependent, and if you're not careful, you could easily screw up your configuration because of one extra white space. I feel like it's a recipe for disaster if someday I were to actually complete this game and want to release it on Steam, and maybe during a debug session or something, I commented out a block of YAML and then uncommented it, but for whatever reason, an extra space got inserted somewhere, which just completely hoses the game, and I didn't catch it, right? So going for a configuration that makes it a little harder for me to get it wrong would be ideal. And so Toml was what I had landed on originally. Hey, guys. Appreciate you stopping by. Now, the question is, the thing I'm struggling with today for a couple of hours is when it comes to building my UI is going to have a bunch of stuff going on. It's going to have menus. It's going to have different portals for things to show up in. And how much of that do I want to make configurable versus hard-coded? And how much of that do I want to add to the Toml file? So now I'm like just trying to think ahead for this problem that will eventually show up. It doesn't really show up today because there's not much to the game, but eventually it'll show up. And so I'm just trying to figure out if Toml is the answer. I appreciate it. Thanks for the subscription on YouTube. Dude, Rafa, you're not wrong. I am so close to considering Qt. So my background, I have significant experience with Qt, and in fact, I have made like real world graphical systems using Qt. So I am so close to being like, why not just use Qt, right? Which I might. I very well might. I haven't decided, because it gets to a point where, so I was using Godot, but for me, Godot is very like handholdy, and a lot of it is designed around helping new people or helping people who aren't necessarily low-level coders get a project up and running quickly, which is awesome. I was able to get a project up and running quickly, but I found if I wanted to do anything the way I wanted to do it, it was hard to fight against, or like I had to fight against how Godot expected you to write code. And so I am exploring other alternatives, one of which is just writing it from scratch, with the downside being that you got to write it from scratch, which takes a lot more time and effort. But man, Qt is like Qt Quick with QML. That could be the way to go. It's LGPL licensed, but that's perfectly fine. You could still release it as a game. And honestly, it would also give users of my game an opportunity to mod it, which I totally am all for. Because then if you have the know-how, all you have to do is build and link your own Qt libraries, and boom, you have a modded game. So that is very well within the realm of possibility. Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm doing. I'm just exploring right now. What's up? Quick question. Any good book website to introduce into C++? As an introduction? Ooh. I don't know about introduction, but one of the books that had the biggest impact on me and how I write code is by Scott Myers. Effective. Ooh, there's a new edition. Effective C++. I don't think it was called New Edition when I read it. But if you're able to track down this book somewhere, it kind of goes over how to think about writing code in general. And from an API perspective, at least for me, one of the things that I took from it is you're always trying to write code that is easy to use, hard to use incorrectly. So that means designing your APIs around forcing the function that is expected and reducing the opportunity to do something unexpected. So type safety, right? Like type safety is a big one. Because if you can use the compiler to enforce how your code should be used, that's huge, right? So effective C++ kind of goes over that. Now it's been, oh boy, it's been 10, 15 years since I've read this book. So I don't know what is updated. So hopefully this is still a strong recommendation and not a bad one. But a lot's changed in C++, but there's some good fundamentals in that book. LearnCPP.com. I have never used that. That might be newer. I don't think that existed when I started learning. Thanks. Did you start using C first? I mean, I guess technically I did. I went to college for programming, and some of the intro classes were C, so learning like malloc, memory allocation, freeing memory, arrays, loops, things like that. I mean, I learned that in C. Now, have I touched C since then? I mean, I compile C libraries all the time if I want to use their APIs in my code. Like I'm using Raylib, right? Raylib's written in C. So if I come in here, I've got some Raylib code right here going on, and that's C. But no, I haven't really written C, and so I wouldn't be like, I do not consider myself an expert at C at all, because there are some differences. I basically kind of got thrown into the fire. I went to college, learned C++ in college, got an internship with my C++ knowledge, and then got hired full time, and here I am. The rest is history. I'm not a Rust guy, I'll tell you that. Type safety is a lesson forged in fire. When you're working on code bases that have been around for years, or you have multiple people working on the same code base, and you want to make sure your code, your project as a whole for a business remains maintainable, type safety is kind of paramount to having a successful code base. I really appreciate it. Thanks for the subscribers. But yeah, anyway. So Toml, I'm still considering if I want to do this. I have some tricks up my own sleeve when it comes to object-oriented programming that will make like serializing and deserializing to these configuration files really easy, because then all I have to do is define a class and boom, I automatically get it. I'm trying to decide if it's actually worth doing that. One of the struggles with the current implementation is I don't get any encapsulation, which is what I'm used to. So when I want to do some micro optimizations like, hey, don't measure text anymore if the text doesn't change anymore, it would be nice if I had like a dirty flag on my objects that I can check, because then I don't have to spend the resources calling measured text every frame for every text. So that's what I'm thinking about. Do the old-fashioned, just create an object, add a draw function, virtual inheritance, boom, go. It would still be pretty straightforward. I mean, I don't expect this game to be so big that object orientation programming will like get in my way per se, especially since I'm so used to using it. I don't know why I'm telling you guys this. I'm like telling you guys to convince you to convince me when I probably just need to do it. Hmm. Hmm. Because then these properties become serializable. I'm also like, I don't know how many people here have ever started their own programming project and tinkered with it and tried new things with it. And you're like, nah, I want to try this. Nah, I want to rewrite this. Nah, I want to rewrite this, right? Like, perfection is the enemy of success, right? And I don't want to get into this endless cycle of rewriting my code over and over and over again. I have been programmed. Okay, so Shark Zoo, that's an interesting question. How long have I been programming professionally, or how long have I been programming? Because I technically have been programming since I was. Let's just say I've been programming for over 20 years. Professionally, over 15 years. The first thing I ever programmed was on a graphing calculator using the basic language. I also used to do like HTML4 websites using Notepad because I didn't have access to any website tools or anything like that. So I just had an HTML4 for dummies and notepad.txt, and I would create an HTML file and then have a browser try and load it, and it would either work or it wouldn't. And then I would just do that over and over again. Yeah, I've been at this for a minute. Yep, I would consider myself a veteran. I wouldn't consider myself a guru of all things coding, but in my domain of expertise, I am fairly well experienced, I would like to think. How do I feel about LLMs? Double-edged sword, right? I find them very useful for debugging and knocking out small tasks that I don't want to be bothered like writing up or like having to deal with boilerplate. But if you go too much, too big, or too broad, then it kind of takes over and you lose track and lose control of your code base. So I use it. I use it professionally, but I use it with responsibility. Like Uncle Ben from Spider-Man says, "Great power comes great responsibility." That is a great question about how I approach data-oriented programming, and I'm not the most expert, or I won't be able to give you the most expert opinion on this because, like I said, most of my career I have been doing object-oriented programming. Usually, if it comes to like having to do data, um, it it usually depends on the problem you're trying to solve, right? And you're at the end of the day, you're just like with data oriented programming, you're just trying to minimize or like minimize your operations with the CPU, right? So keep your data packed, make it iterable, very iteration cache friendly, and you have to kind of pay attention to your access patterns, right? Is most of the time are you going to be iterating on your data? Are you inserting and deleting your data? Are you just reading the data? Those kinds of things. And you just go with the data structure that fits your design pattern. Binary tree or hash set. I don't know if I have a favorite. Well, actually, no. There is my favorite data structure is an array. So if you ask me binary tree or hash set, the answer is array, right? And the answer for me is almost always array because of how cache friendly it can be. Even if like say your binary tree has login or your hash has like O of 1 search, there is something to be said about linearly searching your data structure when it fits in your cache, right? Nothing really beats that. Um, let's see, what else we got? Favorite design pattern. Favorite design pattern. Well, being a QT head using desktop applications, building modeling simulation frameworks, I would have to incline, or I'd have to say that one of my favorite patterns is the model view controller pattern. I've essentially built a career off of using that, separation of concerns, keeping the data separate from the rendering logic. There's a whole field out in the world and all kinds of derived patterns based off of MVC. You think of React, Node.js, right? You think of Flutter. You think of I think Facebook even has a pattern called like the Flux pattern. Like it's all MVC. It's all separation of concerns. So I would have to go with MVC. New undergraduate, how would I start learning C++ roadmap? Well, see, that's tough. I don't know well, I'll tell you the best way for me and how I learned C++ was honestly an internship. While I was in school, I managed to get an internship, right? I already took some C++ classes. Now, like I wasn't an expert, right? I'm in school. So I knew some stuff. I knew what a pointer was. I knew how to implement a linked list. What else did I know? I knew what data structures were. I knew what my big O notations were. And that was it, right? I did not know how to link a library because in school, all you ever do in school is like write a main.cpp or a couple of header files, right? So there's a lot I didn't know. And then I got an internship and I got someone to code review me. And I honestly learned so much from having someone code review my projects. And once I realized that there was more to learn, that's when I started to like work on myself and read, right? And I don't mean like grab a book and read. I mean like, oh, I'm going to turn something on Netflix and then doom scroll a couple of C++ articles, or I think, what is it today? Medium? Doom scroll a couple of Medium C++ articles and be like, oh, what's that about? Let me write a toy project and see if I understand what it's doing, right? So I just did that over and over for 15 years. And that's all it takes. All right. So I want to... What do I want to do? I'm going to try something here. I want to, now that I have a little bit sketched out, I can, for those new here, you're probably missing a little bit of context, so I'm going to throw something up on the screen and see if you see it. It's kind of hidden by chat a little bit, but this is kind of what I'm working on. I think it should work with the controller. Give it a sec. Come on. I gotta wait for my controller to connect. I don't know what it is, but this controller does not like to connect to my computer quickly. Oh, I heard the beep. There it goes. Okay. So this is what I'm currently working on. And then just last night, I got the text here to disappear when it enters this this gap. And then I can hold the right trigger to accelerate the aircraft. And so you'll see that I'm starting to move towards things, right? I can fly straight. I can turn left, right. Not a whole lot here. I got more in my Godot implementation, but this is kind of what I've been working on. Just so you have a little bit of context if you get lost in the sauce. Oh yeah, definitely Raylib. I I have a love hate with Raylib at the moment. I think it's great for how quick and easy it is to get stuff up and running. It automatically handles font loading and gives you all kinds of nice rendering tools. But because of how easy it is to use, it is harder to use the more like lower level capabilities that I sometimes have needed in the past, and I usually end up swapping back to using something like SDL3. But I don't think I need to do anything too crazy with my game here. So I think Raylib's going to be good enough. And I would prefer to not have to write a bunch of extra code if it's good enough, you know? Mm. Still trying to decide. If I actually wanted nested configuration with comments, I think there is another form of JSON. Is it HJSON? I don't know if I actually need this. I might be making this too complicated on myself. I do have a tendency to do that. For those of you on YouTube, if you are interested, I do have a little bit of music playing in the background on Twitch. I haven't stressed too much about getting music on YouTube because I don't want to risk DMCA. Not that I'm making any money or anything, so I don't know if that's a real issue. Uh, okay. So I guess one thing I could do is I could just have the dirty flag on my data struct and then add a member function to the struct so that whenever you set the text, maybe this is just kind of a one and done thing. This thing isn't updating every frame, but I need to store this. So I'm not gonna worry about it. Whatever. If it's not performance intensive, then maybe I just don't worry about it for now. I need to check on my pipelines because I think they were failing. Oh, that's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's failing on Linux because Because why? Failed to read compiled module cluster. So for the C++ people out there, I've also been building this using C++ modules, which is something I'm not very familiar with. I'm running into compile errors that I have just never seen before in my entire life or my entire career, and it's kind of blowing my mind. Failed to read compiled module cluster 2320. Bad file data. That almost makes me think it just needs to be recompiled. But I have no idea. But that's okay. So I'm on Windows, but I can always swap over to my dev container here and test this out on Linux. See if I get the same error. Ooh, you guys don't see this. I got a crazy error here. Node modules failure. If I abort, what's going to happen? All right, I'm going to hit abort on this pop-up. It's a Microsoft Visual C++ runtime error. So I don't know if this is VS Code or OBS. So if you guys don't see me in a second, you'll know what happened because I'm hitting abort. You guys still there? I think we're good. Woo! All right. What was actually failing? Was it GCC that was failing? I don't remember. Good old pre-compiled headers. I remember those. Wait, why is it building? It's building my dependencies right now, which I thought I had already done. This is GCC release. Okay. Oh, that's right. Last night I ended up writing a couple of math functions and tests. Okay, it's starting to come back to me. So I think the next thing I need to add is my range labels. Oh, which is going to be... It's going to have to be equal to the radius times the zoom level, I think. Okay. Dependencies are built. We're getting there. All right, cool. Let's build. Oh, nope, there's the error. There it is, right there. Failed to read compiled module cluster 2519 2320 bad file or data. Failed to load binding. This seems like I am incorrectly importing my module. So where is this located? I don't have that set up correctly. I don't know how to say your name, so I'm going with, is it Bike? Bike? Hey Bike, how's it going? Some of you people have some crazy usernames out there. What is the IXX extension? That is C++ modules. I think CPPM is also another extension you can use for modules. Load Briarthorn. So I think it's having an issue with here. So here's what I'm going to do, because I am not familiar with this error. I will use an LLM to hopefully help me track down what's going on here. And I'm just going to do... Let's copy this. Paste it. See what happens. My suspicion is we're probably importing or exporting some modules incorrectly or in the wrong order. Export, import Briarthorn.config. And I'm wondering if it's because I'm not exporting here. Okay, so it doesn't like... I don't know. Stale corrupt GCC compiled module. A known C++ module issue. The fix is to wipe the stale GCM and rebuild cleanly. Uh-oh, that's not a good sign. It fails in the pipeline, which is always clean. So it's going to do this, and then it's going to fail again, I think. It's either that or my pipeline is corrupted in GitHub too. Bike. I intend it to be BYK, but people tell me it's too long. That's fair. I can also do BYK. Crap. I don't know if this is true. I'm wondering... This is the downside for trying out new stuff, is it definitely slows you down. So one thing I would recommend is if anyone's out there actively or actually trying to make a game to make money or to get it out the door in front of people, I would just take the path of least resistance to get it done. Because things like this could demotivate and slow you down. What is that saying? Wait, is it saying, am I using this wrong? File system path. Oh, it's really thinking about it. Is the dependency manager connected to an official repository? Yeah, so it's called VC package. It's in GitHub, so anyone could do this for their C++ project. You have a couple of things you need to do. You first start off by going to github.com/Microsoft/VC package, and you clone this project. Now, this doesn't have to sit in your repo if you don't want it to. You can have VC package sit external from your project so you can use it for all of your projects on your computer. I put it in my repo because it's easier for me to automate in my software pipelines. And I think Visual Studio will automatically pull it in for you. It's C plus plus. I think that's technically it. Now, to be fair, if you're using another language at all, but you want to use C libraries, you could still use VC package to pull down C libraries, build them automatically for you, provide you the binary so that you can then manually find and link against if you want. But it does make use of CMake to find all those libraries, right? And for my project, all I have to do is list a dependency, and then when I hit configure for CMake, it's going to automatically clone it or download it, build it in a debug and release, and then it'll also give me a little snippet here in the terminal that explains how to use it in CMake. So then I just copy and paste that in, and boom, I have the dependency. I think eventually, because Rust uses the same C ABI, that they're going to start allowing Rust dependencies to appear in this package manager as well, which is kind of cool. All right, so we're back to compiling. The GCM file is regenerating as corrupt. This is a GCC serialization bug, not a stale. Oh my god, did I hit an actual compiler issue? Which is highly probable. Oh, yeah, GTK. I could actually just look real quick for you. So in VC package, there's this ports folder, and anything in this ports folder is a dependency that you can list to pull down to use it with your project. So as I scroll, you'll notice there are a lot of dependencies that you no longer have to manually clone, configure, build, and link for C++ projects or seed projects. And it makes life so much easier. Anyway, GTK, what is that? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, G, Q, R. GTK is right there. You have GTK and GTK3, right? So all I have to do to get GTK going for my project is I come into my vcpackage.json file, I type GTK, and I configure it with CMake, and it will automatically download and clone it. The other, and there's instructions on how to use this in GitHub, but you basically have to point your CMake project to this toolchain file somewhere. As soon as I remember where it's at, build systems, right here. So you, and this is a CMake thing. CMake has a variable called CMake toolchain file. So you point this vcpackage.cmake into that CMake variable, and then you list your dependencies in vcpackage.json, and then you have them. It's been a long time coming. Back in my day, we had to manually clone and build and fight all the compiler bugs and compiler flags to figure out how to get a darn library built for your project. Yep, and that's a perfectly fine way to do it too. Okay. Oh, this is scary. Is this an actual GCC bug? Or I'm lacking knowledge. Same clusters fail even on the committed head, confirming this is a GCC C++ modules bug, not a regression from recent edits. Let me check if the Clang build is unaffected. Oh, it's going to build my Clang version now to see if it has an issue, which it doesn't. We already know this. Man, what do I do? Is it? Oh, is it a file system issue? That'll be interesting. This is what's kind of nice about debugging is the LLM can at least recommend some approaches to tracking down an error. Yeah, honestly, a lot of people still. I mean, it's grown big, right? So if you look, there is 27,000 stars for this project. So a lot of people are now aware of it. But I still, to this day, run into industry professionals who are manually rolling and managing their own dependencies. And it blows my mind, right? Because it means they've had to add their own custom. And I don't mean just like manually downloading and building. They like have their own separate repos of all of the dependencies they are keeping track of so that they can take a snapshot of the version and maintain it themselves. Um, but you can do all that with VC package now automatically. It takes a little bit to learn all of that, but it's nice. I mean, there's also Conan. Conan exists out there too, and I think it does similar things. It just it uses Python, I think. Man, that's tough. Having memory corruption in a VM. How's that even possible? That's same cluster still failing. The failing clusters are fixed regardless of signature. They must be from a different entity. Okay, so this is now we're back to me thinking I just don't know how to use modules yet, and therefore all hell is breaking loose. Hmm. I thought I fixed workspace folder build, compile commands. So is this legit? It doesn't know. No, it doesn't know any of it. Ooh, it found something. I appreciate the thanks. Thanks for stopping by and saying hi. I really do. I really do mean it. One of the things I've really liked about my job as I've gotten older is just helping newer people learn. Um, it's somewhat fulfilling, right? And it's always cool to show them tips and tricks that I have learned along the way, and then watch their minds go like boom. It's like, oh, I never even considered that. Okay, so the issue is config exports load game type state UI say all taking const file standard file system path plus it pulls in all of Glaze's template machinery. When Briarthorn does export import, GCC must serialize the system path plus thousands of Glaze templates into the GCM, hitting the serialization bug. The fix, make it private. Import Briarthorn.config. Oh, interesting. Looks like templates were causing issues from a third-party library. For those who aren't aware, I'm using a third-party library called Glaze for my Toml serialization. Because then all I have to do is define a struct and it automatically serializes to Toml. I don't know if I would have tracked this down, or it would have taken me a long time. Learning C++, that's what I like to see. Good luck. And don't give up. Just keep practicing. I just realized, for my vertical viewers, is it hard to see the chat text because it like overlaps over the window? I wonder if there's something I can do about that. Then it overlaps my face. I don't know what's better. As long as you can see the bottom message, I guess that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Holy crap. How much is it going to be Oh my god, it's like, what is it doing to my code? I think it's, oh, is it moving everything to a new file? This makes me think I need to consider reorganizing my files. Is it turning it into a CPP file? It's turning it into an implementation file for the templates. So that's definitely something I've been running into with modules, is they don't always play nice with third-party libraries that were never written with the like knowing modules would exist. Hmm. Okay, it's getting close. File set scopes must match. I need a different file set name for the private implementation unit. Oh my gosh. I didn't think it was going to be this big of a deal. So move the implementation out of this module file and just define the interface. Curiouser and curiouser. All right. Well, while this is thinking, I'll be right back. I'm gonna use the bathroom. It's taking longer than I thought it would. Full build passes. Okay, so let's see the damage. So using glaze was causing some C++ module corruption due to, I think, if I understood correctly, dumping all of the template instantiations into the module, causing it to be like a 14 megabyte file. Root cause GCC 15.2 C++ module serializer has a bug. So this is having to happen because of a bug. So do I just say screw it and see if I can upgrade my compiler to 16.1 now? Because maybe it goes away then? Because I would rather not have workarounds to getting modules to work if I can avoid it. Hmm. I wonder if does Ubuntu have access to the latest modules or repo? What do you want, Cat? Huh? What do you want? So I could try and grab GCC 16. Not a whole lot of Vulkan experience. I've done like the whole C++, draw a triangle with Vulkan tutorial. Like 1,500 lines of code later, I finally got a triangle to render. But that's about it. I would say I have more OpenGL experience than anything. The newer APIs have gotten you really got to know what you're doing at almost at a hardware level on like how a GPU works to be successful with those APIs, and it's just not something I've dedicated my time to. I would prefer to just have a library give me all the graphics I need. All right. If I was GCC 16, where would I be? Ships. Okay, so 26 ships with 15.2, so that's not gonna get me any advantage. While GC15 standard 16 is available within the official repositories alongside version 11 through 16. So can I, oh, can I just do this? Oh, that'd be huge. Well, I'm in the container, so let's try it. I guess I don't need sudo here. Dang it. It lied to me. Oh, unless I do need 26. Ooh, okay. Condescending a word? Yeah, condescending's a word. I just posted about my app on my distro subreddit, asking for dev feedback and user feedback. Let's hope people will be helpful and not condescending. Yep. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough putting yourself out there, especially on the internet, where people can be quite rude, if you will. But if you can sift through the anyone being jerks about it, sometimes you will get some pretty good feedback. Because some people will speak up and be like, "Hey, yeah, this like you're on the right track or you're on the wrong track, and this is what you need to consider." What are you doing, cat? Are you hungry? Oh, all right. My cat's bugging me again. You guys know how it is. I'll be right back. Come on, dude. Hey, come here. I don't want to roll on you. Come on. Hey, let me. We're gonna do something crazy here. Is this the best way to do this? We're gonna be sitting and waiting a long time. Maybe I should do this offline. Ah, screw it. This is why I'm streaming to show everyone the nitty gritty. All right. So I'm going to try and switch this to 604. So the latest and greatest Ubuntu to try and get access to the latest GCC. I would prefer not to build it myself if I can avoid it. I would rather just have the pre-built stuff. Does OpenGL take as much time to compile as Vulkan? I'm not sure what you mean by that. I don't think I would assume not, I guess. I've never had the thought of compile time when it came to OpenGL. And again, I haven't used Vulkan that much. All right. Let's see what happens here. I would be impressed if this works. But it is going to take a minute. But we will know sooner than later if it will work or not. All right, so I need to hop back into my dev container to rebuild it. Actually, I probably should have hit rebuild. I think I screwed that up. Rebuild. There we go. So we should see it try and install GCC 16 here, and if it does, we're on track for success. Oh, shader compilation. I believe like all the newer libraries take longer. Cuz I mean, especially if you've played video games, right? Where it's like, "Hey, you got to compile the shaders." Cuz I think they are being specifically compiled for the GPU on your machine. Well, that's not a good sign. Except it failed on the thing I wasn't expecting it to fail on. What? Did it actually succeed on GCC 16? Oh, look at that. I think it was succeeding. It failed on Clang of all things. What? The repository does not have a release file. Interesting. Was Resolute the old name of Ubuntu, so now I need a newer name? No, this is Resolute Raccoon. Releases.ubuntu.com/resolute. I don't want images. Oh, wait, no. This is Ubuntu's website. So clearly, lovm.org. Ubuntu code name. Oh. What is that saved as? What did I... There isn't a Resolute code name for Clang yet, I think is the issue. So what was the previous version of Ubuntu called? I think that's my problem. Hmm. I'm sure that'll be fine, right? It'll still compile for 26, right? Because one way to find out. Is my code public? I can test on my machine. No, it's currently not public. You're not the first person to ask. And the intention is I do want to make a game that to make money. But that being said, I have had a thought in my head where, you know, if I keep having people show up and keep asking me, it's like, well, we could have some fun with this, and I could like separate the game engine from the game, if you will, and I could at least build the game engine side of it public for people to play around with, or at least follow along with my progress. Um, so I'm considering that as well. I haven't decided yet. I'm just not sure. My cat is back. What are you doing? Huh? What are you doing? What are you doing? All right, I fed you. Let's go. Does it feel good? Feel good. Yeah. It does look like this is working though, so I will have Ubuntu 26 now with GCC 16, and we'll see if that fixes my issue. Well, I guys, I think I'm starting to find my niche on YouTube Shorts, and it's C++ advice and guidelines. I released another short today, and it's doing really well so far. Maybe that's what the people are wanting. I've got all kinds of stuff I can show off. All kinds. The container built. Let's see if my project builds with GCC 16. All right, so what's the best way to do this? Should I just stash my changes in case I do need these fixes? Probably what I want to do. I don't think I need any of this. I'll hold on to that. I don't need any of this. Are you guys bullying children in your free time? What is going on in chat right now? Y'all need to relax. Let's see here. Stash. Do I not? I mean, I have a couple of nephews I will, throw around every now and then. All right, moment of truth, I think. We'll see if you know what? I'll go ahead and delete the build directory. Let's start clean here. There's something else I wanted to do. I wanted to delete the build directory. No, that might be it. That might be all I need. All right, configure. We're gonna have to rebuild our dependencies because we have a new compiler. Warning, glaze requires Clang 15 plus or GCC 12 plus. Well, problem solved. Oh, it looks like my friends are gathering for a bonfire tonight, so I think if I manage to get this stuff to compile, then we're at a good spot, a good foundation, and I will seriously consider opening source the game engine side of my game. I'm happy because then, anyone who's actually interested in learning some C++ and wants to be able to follow along, I am A-okay with that. The most successful company I've worked at, I've not I haven't done any of the big, the big name companies. So anything I've worked at, you probably haven't heard about. And I think for now, until I'm more comfortable streaming, because I don't know if this is going to be I don't know if this is going to keep going. I don't know if I want to just start spouting out all the companies I've been with. but I can say that from an employment perspective, I think across the United States, this company had like 20 something thousand employees. I would say that's by far the most successful company I've worked for. Um, while I was at that company, I was a nobody, right? I mean, that was one of my first, that's where I had my internship. Um, so, I was a small, a tadpole in a pond, right? I got to learn C++ under a mentor who taught me a lot. And then 7 years later, that mentor went on his own and started his own company and pulled me in as the first employee. And so we grew that company to about 30 something employees before he sold it. So that did well. And then I moved on to another company that was doing okay, smaller company, doing robotics. And then I got laid off, not because of AI, but because of tariffs. Um, and now I am at another startup, working a contract full time and doing this in the evenings. So that's kind of where things are at over the course of 15 years. Okay, so dependencies compiled. All right, let's see if we get that same error as we were getting before. I really hope not. That'd be so cool if that was a legit bug that's been fixed. Pray to your compiler gods. Um, yeah, sometimes we cook meat. This type of bonfire is probably more going to be like just sitting around, soaking up the heat, maybe having a few drinks, in someone's backyard, just chilling. But sometimes especially if I'm hosting a bonfire, then I like to have hot dogs, burgers, what is it? Stuff for s'mores, so graham crackers, chocolate bars, marshmallows. Dang it, we still get the same error. Oh. I might try switching to a different serialization library then. Ooh, what if I just wrote my own config? I've got all kinds of things to think about. Yeah, I've been to a handful of places, and at least in one of the main industries, I've got enough under my belt to be considered an expert. Oh, I've not tried that. Aluminum wrapped potatoes in a bonfire. That's actually sounds kind of good. Is that kind of like a baked potato? Oh, I hate programming. I hesitate to start anything big because I think I'm gonna get off here in about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. Um, okay. So this seems to be an issue with. Are you biting my foot? What are you doing? That actually sounds really good. So here's the thing. If I do decide to go the game engine route, I already have one that kind of exists that I could continue to work on called Awin. Wonder what state it's in. Let me see. Because at least with Awin, I've started to build up some like nodes, and it's using a ECS. It's using entity components under the hood, so you still get like the encapsulation and the idea behind object-oriented programming, but from a performance perspective under the hood, it would use entity component system. But it needs a lot of work. But it is open source. Let me see where this is at. It also uses SDL3 instead of Raylib. It's building. Everything's building. So where was I at on this project? Because I was working on... So this is what Pong currently looks like. Oh, that's right. The last thing I did was added support for the MinGW compiler because that one guy was asking about it. I was like, yeah, this is how you do it. And so I added it. Except you guys can't see that, can you? All right. The cat is currently sitting behind me waiting, not patiently for me to get up, and I don't know what he wants. But he has been, like, rubbing up against my leg and biting my ankles. Let's see here. Installing. Alright. We'll see if this works. Because the open source repo I have here, you can at least do, I hope. I haven't tested this in a sec. Should be able to do something like this. Boom. We got Pong in a browser inside VS Code written in C++. And if I hit the space button, I can control both characters. So there's a little bit you can do with this, but not a whole lot. And I'm still like working on the API. I'm not 100% convinced it's the API I like. But it basically uses object-oriented programming for the nodes, but then for the rendering backend, it synchronizes the state with an entity component system. So all of like the iteration and the scene transforms get done via entity component, you know, cache coherent, all that fun stuff, instead of like iterating on pointers. I always lose to this freaking AI. I wrote a Pong game that I can't win, and it pisses me off. I should not be this bad. So this Android directory is the configuration needed to build this project as an APK. So I can come in here, change my preset to it's not showing ARM. Oh no, it is. So I can build my project for Android with C++. Yes, I have worked extensively with Qt. That has been a big part of my career is Qt. A big part. Oh, I even have touch controls working, so I can drag it with the mouse. Forgot I did that. Oh, it went right through my paddle. That's a bug. Is it going through the paddle or am I blind? All right, let's see. It does it like right. Oh. I wonder if it's just I'm just not reacting quick enough. Okay, there we go. That might be a bug. I'm not too worried about it. It's Pong. Anyway, yes. So I can build this project for Android, and then once it's built, there will appear an APK target that you can build, and it will use the this Android folder here to actually create the APK that you can then put on your phone. Yes, Qt is used a lot. Now, is it used everywhere? Not necessarily, but there are a lot of companies who make use of it. And I think, like, automobile companies make use of it too. I could just use Qt. I'm really considering it because I don't like my game doesn't need a lot of heavy graphics and it automatically supports all the platforms I want out of the box as well. The only downside to it really is it's bigger. There's more dependencies it has that you have to compile. Now with VC package manager, I can eliminate a lot of it, but there's still a lot there. But that amount does provide you with some really powerful features. Especially like live preview, hot reloading. I think it does all that with QML, which obviously I wouldn't be able to do with my project unless I spent a significant amount of time on it. I'm just playing Pong while I wait for this project to compile. Yep, CSS is nice. I'm not 100% sure if, like, I know Qt's desktop widgets had some kind of style sheet that I think was similar to CSS. QML styling, they just added something new, I think, in 6.11. So I'm not 100% sure. And I honestly haven't used it in like a year or two, so I haven't really kept up. I don't, yeah, I don't know anything about GTK. I know it's been around forever, though, hasn't it? It's pretty old. Probably as old as Qt, I'm guessing. Is GTK what GNOME is written in? I forget. Takes a minute to compile. I'm on project step 5 of 13. Um, oh, wait a minute. Is GTK GNOME Toolkit? Is that what that stands for? No, I think it's just. Oh wait. Oh, it's pretty. Is it? It's C, isn't it? GTK is C. Or I'm looking at C. Let's see. What does it look like in Rust? That looks pretty clean. Hey, why doesn't C++ get any bindings? Everyone hating on C++. But yeah, GTK I think has been around forever. And I think KDE is written in Qt, if I recall. This is taking forever. SDL3. Oh, that's the other issue with honestly, that was like a big reason I wasn't using Qt to start with, is with my private pipelines being limited to only 2,000 minutes. Having my pipelines have to build Qt once might consume a lot of my minutes to start with. I mean, once you get it built, it's fine, but it can take a few minutes to get compiled. But what's cool is with VC package, just like GTK, I can literally come in here and just list Qt, and it will automatically clone the repos and build it for you. What's wrong with template meta programming? You do all kinds of cool stuff. I mean, you won't be able to read it, but you can do all kinds of cool stuff with it. Yeah, that's one argument that I've always wondered about, is seeing the seeing not everyone, right, but seeing some C developers be like, C++ is the worst. It's too complex, which they're not necessarily wrong. Just use C. Why not use C++ and get the type safety, but then write it like you would C? I think that's the big reason I like C++ is all the type safety you can achieve with it. All the compile time features to make sure your code is being used as intended. You're not passing in an enum into just an integer. You're passing an enum into its typed enum. You're not passing a macro into a function as a boolean. You're using the bool type, right? Yeah, basically C with classes. And I'm sure there are people out there who do that for sure. It's like no one's forcing you to write templates. I've written some templates, but I wouldn't say that's the core of the code that I ever write. And a lot of times it's going to be your third-party libraries that are using all the templates. Here we go. It's almost built. I'm getting tired of losing this stupid bot. Okay. So I can compile, or no, that just built the dependencies. I didn't even build the project. I can compile this project for Android. And then once it's built, it creates a shared object file, and that gets wrapped in an APK via the configuration inside that Android folder you were asking about. Hey, Ram. How's it going? It always blows my mind that I'm appearing on anyone's feed at the moment. So I hope that's a good thing and not a bad thing. How do I compile for Android on Windows? Android Studio. So I have Android Studio installed on my desktop. But that being said, I'm actively inside a development container right now, which is Ubuntu. And so I just download the Android Studio SDK software development kit and NDK native development kit. It's, I wouldn't say it's necessarily straightforward, but if you've used software development kits before, it's fairly straightforward. But inside my Docker file here, after I install my compilers, I go out and grab and install the Android SDK and NDK and set up my CMake presets to compile for Android. And the cool thing with VC Package is it supports Android as well. So any dependencies I pull in will automatically compile for Android as long as I have the environment variables set up. And then I just tell it to build. I say just tell it to build, but like a lot of time and effort went into developing the CMake scripts to make that happen. And it built my APK. So we're gonna do a test here. We'll see if this works live, because it's been a minute since I've done this, but I'm going to plug my phone into my computer. I need to allow file transfers. Okay. I'm not showing this on screen, but I am going to drag and drop the APK, which is in my build ARM64 Android installed. Nope, it's not there. Where is it? Outputs APK release. So I have an APK release here that I'm going to copy over to my phone. Build Android outputs APK release. Download, paste. All right, that is copied to my phone. So then I go to my downloads folder on my phone. So you can kind of see, oh, nope. I have the APK release on my phone. So I'm gonna install it. I hope. Watch it not work. It's always something when you're doing a live demo. Install. And then, come on, please work. So I have it running on my phone. I have it running in the browser. And I have it running on desktop. That's kind of where things are at with this project. There's not a whole lot to it right now. There's still a bunch I want to do. But the Pong game itself is written in main.cpp here. This is all on GitHub. It should be open to the public. But this has kind of been my playground of trying things out. Yeah, live demo is basically digging your own grave. You're not wrong. Can I use Android Studio to compile C for Android? I assume so. So the important piece for using like a native language like C or C++ with Android is the NDK native development kit. It comes with a Clang compiler. So if you can compile your C code with Clang, then you should be able to use this NDK to compile your code for Android. All right. And I think maybe I already have a Qt branch on here. Was it this one I did that on? I don't remember. Ooh, I do have a Qt branch. I forget if I got anything up and running with this though. I don't. So, does Android Studio know how to use CMake for linking? I don't know about Android Studio. I have not personally used Android Studio itself because Android Studio is kind of like the all-encompassing application. For what you're seeing on screen here, I'm just pulling in the tools themselves and not the Studio, because the Studio comes with like the IDE that you use for programming, and I think it's Kotlin, whatever the programming language is for Android. But it's a compiler, right? So if you use CMake to compile for Clang, you just choose a different compiler to use. And specifically, the way that would work with CMake is, and I have it here somewhere, compiler, Android NDK. So I have a preset for Android for CMake. And you have to point to the toolchain, because Android NDK comes with a toolchain file. So if you point CMake to this toolchain file, it contains all the variables and locations of everything your CMake needs to compile your code for Android. But you would need the NDK, right? Which I think comes with Android Studio. So I'm thinking, what do you want, Cat? I am going to be hopping off here shortly so I can go to my friend's bonfire, but I'm at a crossroads right now with how I want to do my projects that I really got to think about. Do I continue building this up from mostly scratch? I mean, I'll still use third-party libraries. I could switch over to Qt, which basically does everything we need, minus some stuff, which I can implement myself, right? I don't think Qt out of the box supports gamepads, for instance, which I could add. It doesn't support a physics step, which I can add. I've done that before. The rendering is good enough until you need to do anything crazy. Yeah, I use HTML including WebAssembly for Awin. So inside my app here, there's a shell.html file, which kind of defines the web page and the colors, including the background image. And then I think there's a little bit of JavaScript to make the background transparency blend do alpha blending. because I did set my SDL window to be transparent. And I don't know where I put that, or I don't remember. I thought I tinker with so many projects that I like lose track of what I was doing and when, because they all get kind of tossed to the side, because I'm always just trying some things just to see if I can get certain things to work. Oh, here it is. So I have some JavaScript in this HTML for WebGL, WebGL2 to disable pre-multiplied alpha. And then that with, where did I set that? I think it's the clear color. Clear color. So that combined with the clear color that I set on my window achieves this transparency effect. Which I thought was a cool little project that I did. But yeah, so I think maybe next stream, which could be tomorrow. I'm not consistent yet on what to do because I work full time and I have a life to live. So I can't guarantee exactly when I'll be on, but usually it's around 5:30 Eastern time. But I think tomorrow, if I'm able to get on, I will at least get a Qt version stood up just to see and play around with, because that gets really neat with QML for graphics, and we can do a lot with that, and I mean a whole lot. So maybe I'll try that just for fun, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I think in the meantime, I'm going to call it here. I really appreciate you guys stopping by and hanging out. It's really nice to see some regulars. It makes it feel a little more worth getting on and talking some C++ with people. I'm always happy to share my knowledge, and I'm always happy to receive some knowledge because, you know, C++ is huge. It's impossible to know everything. But yeah, I'm going to keep trying this out, see where things go, and I will try